All right, good evening, friends. It's just after 7 on a Sunday night, the 17th of September. The year is moving fast, and we make history tonight. Tonight is then the closing session of a series of 10 by Arno Claassen on his lessons around 10 steps to financial success and freedom. And tonight's session is about investing people. And Arno, we're looking forward to hear what you have for us. Over to you.
Yes, thank you very much. I've actually renamed the session, I think, to a better name, and that's a family dynasty. To build a family dynasty, I think it's much more in line with what you've also written, Jasper, in your book about the family dynasty or family legacy. You can call it whatever you want. That the name is not the big thing. I think the big thing is that we must really understand that life is not about money. Well, it sounds crazy. You know, we're talking about money, 10 sessions, then we say it's not about money. It's actually about people. Everything is about people. Money is a means to an end, a very important means, because you know you can have the end goal, but if you don't have the means, you can't get to the end goal. But if you've reached the end goal, you know, it's not like, you know, you're so conscious about the money, because it's actually not about the money. The money is only the means to the end. Money is not supposed to be the main thing that we constantly talking about, you know, and we actually sort of judge each other on the money thing and the car and whatever. It's stuff we need along the line. Yes, very important stuff we need along the line, whatever it may be. And we must never degrade money and assets and all these things. But to make it a focus is actually geldgierigheid. What's that now in English? It's not about money. The focus is always people. And we must understand that God has given us two systems in society. The two systems is, in the first place, a governmental system, in which business and money is part of. And we've also said then there's the family system, of which families and relationship is part of. So to conquer these two systems, you need to conquer relationship and money, because it runs together. But we must acknowledge that everything starts in the family system. Then we go to the governmental business system, and then we go back to the family system, because we need to reinvest everything. It is no use in just making money and have a certain amount of money, 10 million rand in the bank. You know, 10 million rand in the bank doing nothing is just 10 million rand, and it's actually just around about zero, in the sense of there's no effect in it. We need to come to a point where the money that we're making do have an effect, much more than just spending it or just going on holiday. That's everything fine, but we need to invest. We've also said, you know, we've had this thing of money, riches, and wealth. In the first place, we need to make money. Then we need to buy assets with the money, but we then need to make sure to invest money. But the ways of investment is not only to invest in houses or property or the market or whatever. We must realize that the only investment that we can get back one day in heaven is the investment in people. So we must focus. That is the best investment and the most important investment that we must do, to actually let your money go beyond to death, if you can say it like that. Because the whole world is actually about people. It's about people investing in people. There's no sense in just buying cars and more houses, you know, and maybe you get, yes, good returns on your investment. But what you're doing with the returns, you cannot just invest in stuff endlessly. Somewhere along the line, you must start invest in people, and it's actually good to start investing in people from the beginning. But that will also be according to your plan, and you must have it according to your plan. So at the end of the day, when we get to financial freedom, you know, the main goal of financial freedom in the first place is to conquer and to have more, to free more time in your life from the, let's say, the business world, so that you can spend more time with people in the family world, invest in people, whatever you want to invest. You can maybe invest money, you can invest counseling, you can invest training people, you can invest helping people, supporting people. There's lots of things that we can do for people. And we must understand that all these forms, or whatever your gift might be, is a gift that must flow back to people. The key to the success of your life is to make other people successful with whatever the gift is in your life. In my life, it's much more a gift of training people, helping people understand life, understand money, understand the gospel and all these things. But you must reinvest your gift in people, because the reinvesting of your gift in other people will actually bring the success of your own life. You cannot just develop your own gift and not use it. It is used for other people. We always say, the fruit of the Spirit is for you and to beautify your life. But the gifts in your life is for other people. That is, it's actually in the first place for other people, to give it to other people and help other people. Our gifts is not in the first place for us there. It is in the first place for other people there. So at the end of the day, as we talk about people and we talk about the family system and the family world, we must understand, we must understand, I just put the wrong button here. We must understand that there's a real key in the family world. The family world in the house is a key place. It's actually the place where everything in society is earthed. We earth it in houses. We don't earth it in businesses or in even churches or so. Everything in life is earthed in houses, and in houses you will find families. In terms of Afrikaans, ons het gesinne, maar ons het ook extended family. You may find extended family also in houses, and both of that is very important. And we must understand that this family thing and reinvesting in family is a key thing in society. The aim of the devil is to take out the father of the family and, take out the father in the house, and at the end of the day, we paralyze family. And nowadays it becomes a luxury, to grow up in a house where there is a father that have paid for everything, that have invested in you, that have trained you, and that have educated you. It becomes a real, I always say it's like an unfair advantage nowadays to have a house where both parents are and they have paid for everything, educated you, and helped you to become that success. And to live that success that is in you. You see, the biggest problem in life is not to get the wealth. The biggest problem is to create a wealth creator. And you need a family to create a wealth creator. That's very, very important. And it is our biggest task is to educate our children in terms of what is the thinking of a wealth creator? What is the attitude of a wealth creator? What is the atmosphere around a wealth creator? What is the outlook? How do you look at money? A wealth creator is determined and defined by the certain values that they live in. I've made a study of wealth creators, that's 1% people in the world, and I found that they live in the same values, even though maybe they're unbelievers or believers. They live with basically 90% plus the same values at least. Because it is the values that make these people wealth creators. It is not in the first place because they have a certain business or they are in a certain church or certain nothing. It's a way how they look at life, at people, at themselves. They understand the systems of the world. They are educated around the world. They know their own identity. They invest a lot in themselves, not because they are selfish, but because they know they are the starting point of everything in their family. And all of their family will live in the poverty of their life or will live in the wealth of their lives. So they are very much responsible orientated and know that they need to take up responsibility for their family. And they need to set down a pace and an atmosphere for the family to grow in. And the biggest challenge in life is to create and train and educate a wealth creator. That's not so easy. And that is done in a family. Yes, you need experience in terms of the business world and everything, but people that are maybe successes in businesses are not necessarily people that are always wealth creators. You can have a good business and you can make a lot of money. But money is, then there's a cash flow, but the cash flow in itself doesn't make you a wealth creator. A wealth creator is a person that knows how to take this money and reinvest it in people, number one, in their own family, their own children, to create generational wealth, to create a situation where you get a family dynasty, a family legacy that will live on when you are in the grave. And also to invest in other people outside of the family in various different ways. Maybe they are not so near to you in terms of education or training them because they are not in your house, but in reaching out to other people and helping also them in different aspects to think correct, to look correctly at life and to live life correctly and to understand what life is all about. And that is very important. We've also said that wealth creators spend most of their money, or not most, they spend a lot of their money on themselves in terms of education, because the educational aspect of people in the family world is the aspect that makes wealth creators or not. And that happens in families. And unfortunately, it's supposed to happen in all families. But the problem, it is not in all families. It is maybe only in 1 to maybe 10% people in the world's families. And you get some form of wealth education, if we can say it like that, where people are really educated and trying to educate their children in terms of what it is all about. You know, we look very negatively at people. You know, it costs you more or less 2 million rand to raise a child. So you need to get it into your thinking. But life is much more than the 2 million that you will going to need to educate or to raise the child. There's a lot of education going into to learn the child the skills that's in you, the knowledge that's in you, the ways of looking at things, the way of thinking about life. Because that is actually the thing that's going to make the difference at the end of the day. And if we talk about reinvesting in people, we're not only talking about reinvesting money into family and other people. We're talking about reinvesting yourself in other people. The gift that you have, the knowledge that you have. I mean, I wrote a book called The Formula of Success, where the Lord gave me a formula of what is the process in let's say, producing a successful person in life, or to activate the success that is in people. You can find it for free on my moneywisegame.com. You can find it there. But it is very important to understand that we have those stuff. We need to give it to people. We need to reinvest it to people. And most often, the people will not be able to pay you for that. Therefore, you must become financially free so that you can pay for the other people. Because that is what family is all about. That is what children is all about. You pay for the children. The father pay for everything for the children to make the child a success in life. It is not the child pays for the father pays for the child. And you need to give it and give it and give it, because that is actually the essence of life, is to give whatever you have and give it to other people. And sometimes they don't really, let's say, value it or whatever, but that doesn't matter. You will be rewarded for whatever you give to other people. The Lord says that whatever you give to other people from a glass of water will be rewarded unto you, and it will be a ministry unto him. Now that's a bold statement, and you need to take off your eyes in terms of what will I get back, and will people really, what will they think about me, and will they remember me or whatever? Forget about it. As long as the Lord remembers you, but give whatever you have in terms of gifts. Maybe people say, but I do not have all this money like a wealth creator, but start giving whatever you have. Reproduce your gifts, stir it in other people, train people, teach people. We've also said, in Afrikaans sê ons, daar is 'n opvoeding wat moet plaasvind en 'n opleiding. An education and a training. Education is part of the home. Training is part of schools and universities. We can pay for a training, but education is a difficult thing. The problem where people fall off the bus is in education. We can train them to become lawyers, and a lot of people, but they are, let's say, crooked lawyers because they are not educated in terms of integrity, character, to respect people. We've given them a gift, in terms of training. We've given them some knowledge and lots of things that's necessary. These two are not opposites in terms of, you only need one of them. You need both of them. But the educational part is the scarcity one because you get it from parents, you get it from father figures. And the main investment thing is not only to train other people, but to invest life and the working of life into other people's lives and reproduce your life into other people that maybe no one else will know about, but that's not the point. The Lord will reward you for whatever you reproduce in other people. I've been lots involved with wealth creators, and I found, 2015, around about there, I found that the biggest problem with wealth creators is the fact that the wealth creator family does not last longer than 3 generations. It's like the father is a farmer and he works hard, and he sort of conquer life, and he makes money and he can send his son to university and he can even, go further in life than the father. And then there is the grandson. But when the wealth of the grandfather comes to the grandchild, everything falls apart. Most wealth creation families. And the biggest reason is why. And I've read books about this. A guy called James Hughes. You can find him on internet. I've got his books, very excellent books. He and his wife was the 4th generation of a family that been falling apart in the 3rd generation. Was raised wealthy, expecting a lot of money to inherit, and then suddenly there was nothing, and they had to look after their parents. They've lost it, the 3rd generation. And the problem is actually that the values of the grandfather, he became a success because of a certain work ethic, a certain education, a certain value system that he learned. And his responsibility is to transfer this value system to his son and his son to his son. But they say if you just normally live a good life, around about 50% of your values will transfer to your children. And if they transfer only 50%, it means that only 25% more or less of the grandfather's values will end up in the grandchildren. And that's the problem, that when the assets of the grandfather ends up in the life of the grandchildren, they do not have the values and the education to maintain it, not even to extend it, but to maintain it. And so the big question is, how do you solve this big question? And this guy wrote this book, excellent book, he wrote actually 4 or 5 books around all this. He was an attorney himself, and his work was to help strategize wealth creators who had a lot of exposure to them. And he said there's only one difference between a wealth creation family that goes on for 200 years and a wealth creation family that falls apart in the 3rd generation. That is true about most wealth creation families. And the reason why they can get success, these people with 100, 200 years, is that we must understand that wealth is running in families. Wealth is not running in businesses. A business is a cash generator. A family, wealth creator families, the Ruperts, whatever, all these families, it's running in families. And the reason it's running in families is that they've got their hand on this educational part that's happening only in families. And the only difference between a wealth creation family that goes on for 200 years and a family that goes on for 3 generations is only, you must listen clearly, is the way how you do family. And then he talks in his book about this way, how they do family. And let me tell you, these people do family in a much more glorious way than even the people in churches know about. They are much more family orientated than even our churches at the end of the day. They're very much family orientated. The way what they do, how they treat family, how they see family, how they educate family, how they bring family together, how they have what is it? Holidays together. They talk about family. They sit together and they formulate family. They formulate expectations in family. They formulate, what are we going to do together? How are we going to do together? How are we going to help people in the family? No one in the family is sitting and suffering and battling. They put everything together to help every person in family. They've got a concept of family that's far bigger than what we in the Western world are on average know. And that is what we more or less see in the Jewish communities. They're very much family orientated. They live together, do together, business together, work together, and they take up responsibility for each other. For us in the Western world, you raise a child, we must just get him out of the house and out of your pocket, that we can just sort of, get rid of each other, if you can say it like that, for peace sake. That's not how these people are looking at things. They've got a total different viewpoint. They invest in each other in an extremely intensive way, and they value family exceptionally high. Because, so I think last time I've written is that 93% of the 500 biggest businesses in the world was started by families. The biggest factor in wealth creation and wealth preservation is the way how you do family. It's not business principles. The biggest factor in wealth creation and wealth preservation is the way how you do family. It was a family that started Ford. It was a family behind these businesses. It's a family that started Samsung, and it's still in control there. So you can go on, and there's lots of books about it. Because family is the key. The key is investing in people. Not only the family, but other people also. That's why 68% of wealth creation families do have their own investment program, how they invest in people outside of the family. They run it themselves because they want to make sure that the money and the program they're running is getting to people, and it's not just going to salaries of other people, and there's no program and there's no education that's happening eventually. And it's interesting, and they don't want to run the program through churches because they say churches has too much salary orientated and too much and not so much education orientated. I mean, that's what they tell me. We can talk about that a lot. And they run it themselves because the education of people are, for these people, enormously important. They spend enormous amount of money in educating people on all levels that you can think of in life. Because the biggest challenge is to educate a wealth creator, is to create and produce a wealth creator in the next generation and in other people. Because it's all about an education and exposure and going with people through processes where they get experience and where they learn from life. And you can go through university, but the only real school in life is the school of life. You need to go through the school of life, and the school of life is costly. You make mistakes, that's big problems. And in this school of life, they stick together and they help the people through the school of life that they can get to the other side. When we listen to these wealth creators, they tell you that the biggest reasons for their success is integrity, number one, discipline, number two, good relationships with other people, number three, a supportive wife, very important, supportive wife. There's a successful woman behind every successful man. We've always heard that thing, and that's true. Hard work, number five. But all these things are not just things you pick up along the road. It is things it's part of family. When I've been visiting wealth creators, as a program in my life, and started to learn from them. And it's, as I said, it is incredible how all of them talk the same language. They don't know each other. They do the thing the same way. They have the same values. They They have value on the same things like order and honor and authority and vision and passion and supporting each other. And when you sit with them, it's as if you've sit with everyone. They talk the same language. I remember, in the time when I've made an effort to visit wealth creators to learn from them, they basically, all of them tell me the same thing when I entered their home. They tell me, listen, if you come to learn from me about money, you can just as well go, because I do not live for money. I make a lot of money. I need all this money, but I'm not impressed by money. I don't live for money. I just need this money to help people, to invest in people, to train people. That's all. I'm consumed by people. I'm not consumed by business. I was not shocked by it, because I knew that was basically the thing, but I was shocked by the fact that basically all of them, by entering their home, they was very serious about this thing. Listen, don't come and talk to me because you are impressed about money. You forget about being impressed about money. Come to me and let us talk about life. Let's talk about people. Let's talk about how we live this thing together. That's what it is all about. And how we live the success that people are born with in their own lives. So remember that thing that we've said, that family and the way how you do family is the main factor in wealth creation and wealth preservation, because that's where you learn these things. You learn stuff in that way that you can never learn at university, never learn in books, because that's where you get streetwise, legal-wise, money-wise, and all these things. I mean, I learned basically 90% of the stuff that I've been put into the money-wise course. I learned from these people. It's because that's the quickest way to do it. I do not have another 3 lives to go through in the school of life to learn these things. I was not raised by parents that was wealth creators, so I need to find it. Where do you find it? Find it with people that are wealth creators. Enroll with them. I actually forced myself into their lives to learn from them, to see from them, to hear how they talk, how they look, how they see. And let me tell you, it is the most fascinating group of people I've ever met on earth. It's the wealth creators. They stretch everything in you, because they look at life in a positive way, a broad way, a good way, a great way. They're doing things on a great scale, and because when you are in their life, they stretch you in every way. You sit there, they talk, you sit in their meetings and they talk about, you're going to do this project, this will roundabout be 300 and this project will be 250, it's 250. What, 250 rand, 1,000? No, they don't talk beneath millions, I mean, people are used to maybe talk hundreds of thousands or 10,000 or 100,000, but these people don't talk about under millions. And it's not that they're not, that's their life. That's how they do it, because they want to live the great life that's in them, and they want to help other people. They want to start up things, and they think big. And we need to expose ourselves to people that can enlarge you, that can believe in something bigger that's in you, is what you can see in yourself. That's why we need to get to this educational thing. But the problem is to find people that think and live bigger than what you live. That's the most scarce thing in life. That's the most thing in need in this life, is to find those people. And since I've found those people, or I've been in the, let's say, in the presence of those people, I've become sort of, let's say, immune in terms of the people that's just living to just see tomorrow and just pay bills. And you say, man, my goodness, I cannot settle for this any longer. Because if you've been exposed to people that's living greater lives than yourselves, it doesn't say I must live their life, but it's just good to be exposed and stretched by them. And they don't force you to live their life, they just help you to find your life. But your life that's in you is also a very big life. And to get a vision about what's this life inside of me is a big life, because there's greatness in every person on this earth. But we became so used and mediocre with things, living the average life, just making ends meet at the end of the month. That's not what life. I mean, even the Bible tells us that God says he came for life and for abundance. And that doesn't say everyone must have billions or whatever, because abundance is not in the first place measured by billions. It's measured by the greatness that's in you. Yes, but when you start to see the greatness in you, you will need around about a few million to live it. But when you see it, you will start to expect these millions to come, and then they will come to you. That's how it works. And when it end up with you, you will not be impressed by the millions, because you only need the million to live the life that's inside of you. You're only impressed by what's inside of you. That's what God is impressed with. God is impressed with you. He's not impressed with the amount of money you need to live your life. I mean, we were actually issued with all the money that we need to live our life. And we are so focused in making the money that we don't know what are we making the money for. It is for investing in yourself, in other people, your family, and people outside of your family, in whatever your gift is or your passion. Maybe you want to feed people, maybe you want to give people hearing aids or educate people. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about what the gift is. Just start to give the gift, develop the gift, and go forward in the gift. So it's all about raising up a next generation that is not settled in themselves, and that is empowered in themselves to take up the responsibility to solve the problems, because there's no problem on this earth that cannot be solved. We just need people that believe they can solve it and just do it. But we're raising up currently more or less a generation that's just sitting, and they're just passive, and the government must give grants, and the government and the government and the government, and the government is not going to do it. And the government is not going to educate you, because the government stays in rule by not educating you, by making sure that you will not become a wealth creator, because it's the only people that the government cannot control is the wealth creator. Not because they cannot get to their money in a certain way, but they can't conquer them because they're thinking bigger, more wisely, and they're living out of themselves. The government is living from the outside to the inside. These people are living from the inside to the outside. You cannot conquer them. They're living in a dimension that is far greater, but we are all called to live like that, because we are all in essence in ourselves wealth creators. So that at the end of the day, we get a family legacy that do things that we get. They say an average legacy or an average vision on a family will take 4 generations to come to its fullness. That's why you have children. They have to take over. They must take it to a further level. But we are not educated that way, that our children must take over. They must leave. They must go in our Western world. It's interesting that the Bible says in Proverbs 13, verse 22, that a rich man or a wealth creator, whatever we may call it, will allow his children's children to inherit. Now, I've never in my life found a grandchild that inherit on a other basis. Well, in the first place, I found maybe 2. I can think of 2. But those 2 only inherited because the grandfather had a plan to make sure that the grandchildren will inherit. Grandchildren don't inherit, by accident. There was a plan. There was a purpose. There was something set down by the grandfather to sort of to create a process that wealth can flow through and that can be preserved and can end up eventually with the grandchildren. I don't know, maybe, as I said, I found 2 people that have inherited something from a grandparent. It's not very common nowadays. Okay, so we've said it's all about a lifestyle, and I can recommend, what Jasper is doing in his book is part of all these things that we're doing in Geek, is to have a family story. What's our family customs? What's our rituals? What is our way of doing holidays, and what is our values, and we must think about these things, and we must think generationally about it. We must even educate the purpose is to educate our children in this whole process, so that they can take it over and they can live. There's a family bank. A family bank is a very important thing. If you can't do not have enough money for a family bank, well, then GIG is supposed to be the alternative solution, to have a family bank that you can use for this, and to draw out of it. I think maybe that is enough to say, but we must remember that the only way to take your money to heaven is to invest it in people. There's no other way you get it there. You may have it, you may have a lot of money, you maybe spend a lot of money, you maybe have enjoy a lot of money. It's not a right and a wrong, that's not the issue. But if you want to have a harvest on your money, you have to invest it in people. And number one, in yourself, and number two, in your wife and your children and the extended family and further on. And have a plan how we're going to do it, how we're going to live it. And let me tell you, it is really, I'm coming from the world of the priests. The priest is the people, the fivefold ministry of the family world. But then you get the wealth creators, that is the kings of the governmental business world. I'm telling you, I've been exposed to both worlds. I'm still a priest in myself in terms of my calling. But I tell you, the most fascinating people I have found that's living the most fascinating lives, that have the most fascinating influences in towns and in countries, I have found is the wealth creators. It is not the priests. And I believe part of our solution for our country is that the kings and the wealth creators and the priests must find each other and work together, because the priests work to the inside and the wealth creator to the outside. We need each other. We're not in a competition. But unfortunately, they're not in the same team, more or less, on average. But I'm really telling you, I'm fascinated by not only the quality of life, the way these people are thinking, and we coming from a church world, we thought, we are the people, and we sort of have control in the country, and no. Let me tell you, I've seen the wealth creators are far more influential people that's ruling in towns, reigning in towns in a good way, than the priests and the pastor and the dominee and the whatever. And it's not supposed to be a competition. Let me be clear about it. Otherwise, I would be stopping a priest. But I tell you, we need these wealth creators that can stretch us out of our comfort zones and stretch us into something that's far bigger than our church and our own family and our whatever, and stretch us and look into towns and provinces and nations, and because that's what the Bible is talking about. The Bible says that the least among you will take a nation. We are so, into our little church vision and our little this, and it's not in essence wrong, but it is just too little. The greatness that's in us is far bigger, but we are not educated to get it out. We need people that can stretch us and help us to get all these greatness that's inside of every one of us into a bigger lifestyle, where we can influence and invest in much more people. Thank you very much.